Let me be honest with you about something most gardening content gets completely wrong. Every autumn, millions of homeowners do the exact same thing. They spend a Saturday raking every fallen leaf into a pile in the corner of the yard. They stack it high, feel good about it, and tell themselves that by spring it'll be rich garden soil. Free fertilizer. Nature doing its thing. Then April comes. They go out with a shovel, peel back the top layer of dry gray leaves, and find a soggy, compressed, slimy mat underneath. It smells faintly sour. It hasn't decomposed. It hasn't turned into anything useful. It's just wet, heavy, and stuck together like sheets of waterlogged cardboard. So they bag it up and put it on the curb. Sound familiar? Here's what I need you to understand. You didn't fail. The method failed you. Or there's a romanticized idea that nature handles everything on its own. And that's technically true. Leave that pile alone for 3 or 4 years and the forest floor will slowly reclaim it. But you're not a forest. You're a gardener who needs fertility this season. What you built wasn't a composting system. It was a preservation system. And today I'm going to show you how to build a biological engine instead. One that compresses a full year of decomposition into just 18 days. Why your leaf? Pile is a cold, dead fuel. Tank. To fix the problem, we have to first understand what a fallen leaf actually is. When a tree prepares for winter, it's remarkably intelligent about it. It doesn't waste a single nutrient. Before the leaves drop, the tree pulls all its sugars, minerals, and vital energy back down into its roots and trunk for winter survival. The leaf that floats down to the ground is essentially an empty shell. The packaging after everything valuable has been removed. Biologically speaking, a dry brown leaf is almost pure carbon. And carbon is energy. It is the fundamental building block of life. But on its own, carbon is extraordinarily stable. It resists change. Think of a stack of firewood sitting on your porch. That wood is carbon, just like your leaves. You can stack it perfectly, water it, and wait patiently. But without a flame, that wood will sit there for decades. It might slowly rot from the bottom, but it will never release its energy on its own. Your leaf pile is exactly that, a cold fuel tank waiting for a spark. That spark in a compost pile is not fire, it's bacteria. Your garden soil already contains billions of native microbes that are biologically desperate to consume those leaves. They want to break down that carbon and transform it into rich black humus. But they can't do it on a diet of carbon alone. Imagine trying to build a house with nothing but lumber. No nails, no concrete, no fasteners. You have a mountain of material, but you can't build a structure. The bacteria in your pile are facing the same problem. They have an enormous source of energy, the leaves. But they're missing the protein they need to build their own bodies, multiply, and do the work of decomposition. This is called carbon lock, and it's the reason nearly every backyard leaf pile fails. When bacteria try to eat pure carbon without sufficient nitrogen, they consume a little, run out of protein, and die or go dormant. The population collapses. The pile cools. Nothing happens. Most people respond to this by turning the pile more frequently, thinking that mechanical action is the solution. But stirring a pot of empty ingredients doesn't make a meal. You cannot force a biological reaction if the chemistry isn't there. You don't need to work harder. You need to break the lock. The carbon to nitrogen ratio, the most important number in composting. For a compost pile to explode with biological activity, you need to bring the carbon to nitrogen ratio down from roughly 80 to 1, which is what dry fallen leaves are, to around 30 to 1. That's the biological sweet spot. That's where the reaction ignites. The mistake most people make at this stage is reaching for dry nitrogen sources, lawn fertilizer granules, coffee grounds, bone meal, and sprinkling them over the pile. Here's why that doesn't work. Gravity pulls those fine particles down through the loose leaf structure. The nitrogen sinks to the bottom. The leaves stay on top, dry and starving. They never actually mix. The reaction never begins. For the nitrogen to activate the carbon, it needs to coat the surface of every single leaf fragment. It needs to saturate the material, which is why we don't use dry nitrogen. We use a liquid accelerant. This liquid does two critical things simultaneously. It delivers the protein the bacteria need, and it provides the moisture the leaves are desperately lacking. It's not a watering. It's a marinade. The liquid accelerant. 2 recipes that actually work. You'll need a standard 20-liter bucket for either formula. The farm formula, if you have animals or access to a farm. Take 2 shovelfuls of fresh chicken manure or rabbit droppings and place them in the bucket. Fill the rest with water. Stir vigorously with a stick until it resembles dark, murky coffee. This is the gold standard. It's extraordinarily high in nitrogen, and, crucially, it's already alive with the gut bacteria of the animal. You're not just adding nutrients, you're adding a living starter culture. The suburban formula, if you're buying from a garden center. Purchase a bag of blood meal or granulated chicken manure fertilizer. Both are extremely concentrated nitrogen sources. Add 2 cups of blood meal to your 20-liter bucket of water and stir until it's fully suspended. This liquid is your spark. It's 100% organic, highly potent, and the most effective way to break carbon lock when you don't have access to fresh animal manure. Either formula works. The principle is the same. High nitrogen liquid that coats the carbon and feeds the bacteria at the surface level, not at the bottom of a dry pile. Location. The step. Most people skip entirely. Before you pour anything, you need to choose your location carefully. And this matters far more than what kind of bin or container you use. You don't need a fancy rotating tumbler or a cedar-built compost box. What you absolutely cannot do without is bare earth beneath your pile. This is non-negotiable. Your compost pile needs a living connection to the soil underneath it. That soil is a doorway. As your pile heats up, organisms from the surrounding ground will migrate upward through that interface to help process the material. Or as the pile cools or dries between turning cycles, they retreat back down to survive. If you build on concrete, you cut that biological lifeline completely. You isolate the system from the very organisms designed to run it. Find a patch of lawn or open ground roughly 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters. That's your stage. Shredding. The non-negotiable step. Now let's talk about the leaves themselves, because this single step separates successful compost from a moldy, useless mat. You must shred your leaves. I know it feels like extra work. I know you just want to rake and be done, but you need to understand the engineering of a leaf before you skip this step. A leaf is designed by the tree to shed water. It has a waxy exterior coating, and its shape acts like a shingle, directing rainfall away from the trunk and toward the root zone. When you stack whole leaves, you're stacking thousands of tiny, overlapping, water-repellent tiles. Pour liquid over them, and it runs straight down the sides. The interior of the pile stays bone-dry. The carbon lock holds. Shredding destroys that architecture. Run your lawnmower over the leaves. Do it twice if needed. What you're aiming for is confetti, small, rough-edged fragments. When you shred a leaf, 2 things happen. First, you destroy the waxy, water-repelling surface, turning each piece from a shingle into a sponge. Second, you exponentially increase the total surface area available for bacterial colonization. Think about a block of ice versus crushed ice. The block takes hours to melt. The crushed ice disappears in minutes. Same mass, dramatically different surface area. Shredded leaves are crushed ice. These whole leaves are the block. One gives bacteria millions of entry points. The other gives them a sealed wall. A pile of whole leaves left untreated can sit essentially unchanged for an entire year. A correctly treated pile of shredded leaves can be finished compost in under a month. Do not skip the shredding. Building the engine. The layered method. Bring your bags of shredded leaves and your bucket of liquid accelerant to your chosen location. Think of what you're about to do not as dumping a pile, but as building a biological lasagna. Step 1. Empty 1 bag of shredded dry leaves onto the ground. Spread them out into a base layer roughly 15 centimeters deep. It'll look fluffy and light. Good. Step 2. Dip a watering can or small jug into your nitrogen solution and pour it over the leaf layer in slow, sweeping passes. You cover the entire surface evenly, but don't drench it all at once. Step 3. The step most guides leave out. Get your hands in there. Reach into the leaves and mix them by hand. You're trying to ensure that every fragment of leaf material makes contact with that nitrogen solution. Find any dry pockets and add more liquid. Find any soggy areas and work in more dry leaves from the next bag. What you're working toward is what composters call the sponge test. Take a handful of the mixture and squeeze it as hard as you can. If water runs freely down your wrist, it's too wet. Add more dry leaves. If it crumbles apart the instant you open your hand, it's too dry. Add more liquid. What you want is for that compressed handful to hold its shape when you open your fingers, releasing just 1 or 2 drops between your knuckles. That's it. That's the perfect environment. The exact balance of moisture and air, where bacterial life thrives. Repeat this process layer by layer. 15 centimeters of shredded leaves, liquid accelerant, hands in mixing, sponge test, until you've used all your material. Your final pile should be at least 90 centimeters wide and 90 centimeters tall. This isn't aesthetic preference, it's thermal physics. A pile smaller than 90 centimeters cannot insulate itself. The heat generated by the bacteria will escape faster than it accumulates, and the reaction will fizzle. A 90-centimeter pile has enough mass to trap heat at its core and create a self-reinforcing thermal loop. That heat is what drives everything forward. Once built, cover the pile loosely with a tarp or an old piece of carpet. You want to retain heat and prevent rain from drowning it, but you need airflow. It must breathe. The 18-day cycle. What to watch, when to act. If you've built the pile correctly, shredded leaves, right moisture level, liquid nitrogen accelerant throughout, you won't be waiting weeks to see results. Days 1 to 3. Do nothing. Leave it alone. The bacteria are waking up, consuming the easy sugars and the nitrogen you provided. As they eat and multiply, they generate heat as a metabolic byproduct. Let them work undisturbed. Day 3 or 4. Go out in the early morning while the air is still cool. Pull back the tarp. You should see steam rising from the center of the pile. Reach into the middle carefully. It should feel genuinely hot. Not warm, not tepid, but hot. Like a bath drawn too high. Internal pile temperatures should ideally reach 55 to 65 degrees Celsius. This heat is your confirmation signal, and it means the system is alive. It means weed seeds and pathogens are being killed. It means the carbon is dissolving. Day 5. The heat begins to fade. This is not failure. This is chemistry. The bacteria have consumed all available oxygen in the core of the pile. The environment has gone anaerobic. If you leave it now, it will cool, go septic, and start to smell unpleasant. This is your cue to act. Turn the pile. Use a pitchfork to move the outer material, the cooler, drier edges, into the center. Move the hot, steaming core material to the outside. You're inverting the pile inside out while simultaneously reintroducing fresh oxygen throughout. Lightly water it as you turn. The heat has been evaporating moisture, and you need to replenish it. Run the sponge test again and rebalance as needed. Within 24 hours of turning, the temperature will climb again. Fresh oxygen acts like bellows on a fire. Repeat this cycle, turn, water, cover, roughly every 2 days. Days 10 to 12, the material starts to look different. It's no longer identifiable as shredded leaves. It's becoming a uniform dark brown. The smell transforms too. The sharp ammonia or sour leaf odor gives way to a deep, clean, earthy scent. It smells like the floor of an old forest after rain. This is the smell of successful decomposition. Days 18 to 20. The pile stops heating up no matter how many times you turn it. This is the finish line, not a problem. The thermophilic, heat-loving, bacteria have completed their phase of work. They've consumed the easily available energy. The pile cools and transitions. Now, fungi and worms move in to finish the curing process. Your engine has completed its run cycle. You have just compressed approximately 1 year of natural decomposition into 3 weeks. What you've actually made reach into that finished pile. The material is cool now. Dark, almost black. It crumbles between your fingers like chocolate cake. It holds moisture without being wet. It smells alive. This is what gardeners call black gold, and it is the single most valuable thing you can add to your growing beds. When you spread finished compost on your vegetable garden, you're not just adding bulk or filler. You're inoculating your soil with billions of living organisms. You're returning to the earth every bit of solar energy those trees captured over the summer. Energy that will now feed your tomatoes, peppers, squash, and greens through the next growing season. Every wheelbarrow of this material is roughly 10 bags of commercial potting mix you don't have to buy. It's 10 plastic bags that don't go to landfill. It's money that stays in your pocket. And it's complete peace of mind because you know exactly what went into it. No chemical sludge, no mystery fillers, no synthetic salts. Just your leaves, your effort, and the oldest biological process on Earth. You've closed the loop. You've stopped treating your property as a series of problems to manage and started treating it as a system that feeds itself. How to start without burning yourself out. Don't try to compost every leaf on your property this weekend. That's how this becomes a chore instead of a practice. Start with one pile, pick one corner, mow one section's worth of leaves, mix one bucket of accelerant, and commit to one 18-day cycle. You watch it heat up. Go out on a cold morning and see the steam rising. Turn it and feel the heat radiating out. Once you experience that for the first time, once you feel heat pouring out of a pile of dead leaves with your own hands, you won't need any more convincing. You'll understand that fertility isn't something you buy. It's something you unlock. The leaves are falling. The system is waiting. It's time to light the fire.